This clip is sponsored by American Mobile. If you're a nurse interested in traveling, visit americanmobile.com to get started.
Kind of walk me through what a day in the life looks like for mother baby.
Okay, so I love that. A day in the life as a mother baby nurse. So, of course, you give a report. Sometimes I try to look up stuff on my own because you cannot always depend on another nurse to give you everything. Like, it's not their fault necessarily if you miss something, because you should kind of check, which I can do a better job of doing that. So I try to, of course, give report. I sit down and try to like take a small glimpse into their chart, because like sometimes you may be told the patient doesn't have allergies and they actually do. So just small stuff like that. So I sit down, look at that, assign myself to the patients in the system so that if the doctors or anyone on the care team is trying to look for who the nurse is, they're not sending a message to the nurse from last night, which is the most important thing. And then I always like to get water, ice water, on my patients. I cluster my care. So
you
like
get yourself water, or you get your patients water?
No, my patients.
Okay. I mean, both are important.
I mean, I give myself water after I see my patients. But so I like to start off with giving my patients fresh ice water. If it's time for them to have pain meds, I'll go ahead and bring it, regardless of if I think they will want it or not, or if the night nurse said they didn't take any of their meds. I'll just go on with their meds. Worst case scenario, if they don't want it, I'll put it back. So I just like to have everything. So I'll go in the room, introduce myself to my patient, try to update the whiteboard. We do not so well about that, but because it's hard for, especially new mamas, you're tired. So it's hard for you to remember my name. And then sometimes they feel bad. I'm like, please don't feel bad. So I'll update the whiteboard, introduce myself to my patient, and let them know how long I'll be there, which is important to me because I don't like ending my, like, so say if it's a day where I'm not working a 12-hour shift and I'm only working 4 hours or I'm only working 8 hours, I always say, hello, I'm Gabby. I'll be you and your baby's nurse for the day until 3 or until 7. So that sometimes, so if the day gets crazy and we do shift change and they're like, well, dang, what happened to my nurse? She didn't even say goodbye. So it's kind of like have that idea. Especially like when you develop a good relationship with your patients, so they're not like shocked that you're leaving them or they expected you to be there all day, because typically you work 12 hours. So then I'll get a set of vitals on my mom. I'll assess her bleeding, ask her how her bleeding is doing. We'll talk about how feeding is going and all of the education. Even if the nurse before me says she did that education, I always start off doing my education.
What kind of education is involved?
So I asked, how's your bleeding doing? So for a postpartum mom, they should not be bleeding. They should not be saturating the pad in less than an hour. If they do, that raises a little concern about hemorrhaging maybe. And then I also educate them that they may pass blood clots, which is normal. However, they should not be larger than an egg or a golf ball, which is kind of like a fine line. So I always say, if you pass a blood clot and you're unsure, just call me and I can come look at it. Get in the toilet. And so,
I think that happened to me. I was like, is this a golf ball?
Right.
Like,
is this
a ping pong ball? Like,
tennis ball? Which one is it? So we do that education just so they know it's okay. Like, I never want my patient to think, well, I don't know. And it could be that it's not a normal clot, a normal size clot, and they think it's normal. So we just develop that relationship right off the bat. If they're a fresh mom, so a fresh C-section or vaginal delivery, we like to get 2 measured voids. And so if we don't have that, I just give them a friendly reminder and educate them. We have the hat in the restroom, and I just want you to get up and pee. Or if they haven't gotten up yet, and say if they had a vaginal delivery and their status post-epidural, I always tell them to call me the first time you get up, or the first couple of times, just for safety reasons. I'll go over safe sleep, which is very, very important because as a new mom, you're tired. So I always say you can always cuddle with your baby. However, if you get sleepy, mom and dad or whoever the partner is, you need to switch off or put the baby in the bassinet. A lot of people think, oh, because I'm a light sleeper, it's okay. So I always throw that in there. Even if you feel like you sleep light, it's not safe.
And it's like just important to call. I mean, I've found in my experience, it's important to call the nurse. Like, there's so many things that you can't do that you don't like think about that you can't do.
Right.
Like even just the ab strength to like sit yourself up in bed while you're having holding a baby is hard.
Yeah.
And it's hard for vaginals and C-sections. And so like I remember just like sitting up to put my baby in the bassinet. I'm like, I need help.
You're like, this is rough.
Like, I'm like, this is humbling.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, I also educate them on feeding because a lot of people, so what is obvious to me as I don't have any babies of my own yet, but as a mother infant nurse, some things that are obvious to me because I've been doing this. So I'm experienced with children may not be obvious to a first time mom or even a mom who has 3 kids and say she's starting over. She has an 18-year-old and things have changed significantly since 18 years ago. So I try to keep it the same all across the border. Some moms laugh because they're like, like I got this down packed. But we go over education, like to feed is very important to feed your baby every 3 hours and not to exceed 3 hours when you have a newborn. And then I also tell them it's normal that your baby is sleeping like that. And it's hard to wake your baby up to eat. It's a baby. They will sleep all day if you let them, but you got to wake them up and ruffle their feathers so they can eat.
Yeah, especially in that like first couple days, right? Like they sleep. I mean, that was a traumatic day for everybody involved. So like they want to sleep.
Mama worked, you worked, the baby worked, everybody did work. Dad did work, whether people realize it or not. Everybody plays a role and everyone's tired. So we go over that, and then I also go over cluster feeding because I say the education piece that I just said, which was every baby should be eating every 3 hours. However, I clarify it doesn't mean you can't feed your baby if you just fed your baby, because you could have, some babies cluster feed. And so you could have just fed your baby an hour ago and your baby's fussing and you've done everything you can figure out what's wrong, whether your baby's showing those signs of hunger, which includes smacking lips, sticking tongue out, rooting towards the breast, or putting his or her hands in his mouth. That's them telling you, Mommy, I'm hungry. So we go over that. Like, you may go through a period of cluster feeding. It won't last forever, but it may be a thing.